Chapter 72. Love and Longing. He couldn't help but laugh at the sight of many reporters and eager camera crews being held back by security. He had deliberately kicked this anthill and it was going utterly insane in response. Miro Noir can scarcely contain her own giggles. Neither of them had any illusions to just how big of a mess was made by that little slip of cinder tongue, but they had both been ready in their own ways for it. Vernon was simply laughing at the confusion where Miro Noir was capitalizing on it as she cuddled into his side. The whole world of Cerbo and many of her colonies were watching. Best give them something to see. Although the smug look on her face was probably a bit much. There are a few minutes after Vernon stops laughing and both are just cuddling with each other when a crew is allowed through. They're walking up in a defensive formation around someone in the middle of all them. There are a couple of camera girls with drones following them, but for the most part these are princesses that approach. Miro Noir sits upright and takes a more defensive position in case things go wrong. Then they stop, and after a few moments a willowy, delicate-looking Apuk man steps out. He's barefoot and smiling somewhat as he regards Vernon. Asterisk. Must you bring flame beneath boughs? He asks Vernon, who chuckles. Asterisk. They had already named me Sorcerer, confirming it allows them to prepare so I may test myself against mightier foes. Vernon replies and the sorcerer shakes his head with a smile. He's a sorcerer, one of the newest and most swiftly confirmed. The sorcerer replies, I am Bryn Char. When I was 6, I ran away from home because I was utterly infuriated with a life lacking focus and purpose. I found the woods, and the woods found me. I am Vernon Shea. When the call arose for an impossible journey where death and doom was all that was truly expected, I leapt upon the chance. Through darkness and madness, I and so many others crawled to find ourselves within light and wonder. Vernon begins before leaning into Miro Noir to kiss her. Then love found me, and I found love. In exploring it, I was shown the woods and went to see what could be learned. Teaching was the cost and one I gladly paid. I'm aware I have partaken in the lessons you have brought to the boughs, Bryn Char says, and Vernon smiles. So you can speak in English? He asks. I can indeed. Also, that mental shortcut of yours to transform things is brilliant. Everyone's always got an excuse to carry around a piece or two of tritite, and now we can get weapons and armor out of it. That's absurdly valuable. Bryn Char gushes. Clearly there's a respectable undercurrent of nerd in this sorcerer. Because the vitamancy I learned isn't absolutely amazing and fascinating on 100 different levels. Vernon remarks while chuckling. Speaking of, I'd like to request you use that in the next round. Your time manipulations are interesting, but it's not going to avail you any further, and no doubt many of them are unlikely to... Oh, hello, madam. Bryn Char cuts himself off as a massive foot stomps down nearby. Vernon turns with a sigh. Why is it you people can't approach from the front and always have to make your declarations from behind? I'm not ugly, am I? Does my face repel or something? Vernon jokes and Miro Noir titters. Of course not. Don't be silly. So you're then next to Pook to take deep offense at my husband? Miro Noir asks, looking the tower of muscle and rage in a vaguely female shape up and down. You're clearly insecure in your strength and definitely compensating for something. A frail flame, perhaps? She asks, nodding to the Amazonian Apuk's flame-patterned outfit. Unlike you or your Tret pet, I don't need tricks. I don't know what scheme you have, but I've sculpted myself into a living weapon just to face Kyla Jass, and you took that from me. She snarls before leaning down with a snarl. We're at opposite ends of the tournament, so I won't be facing you until the final round. I won't be holding back so you have time to write out your last will and testament. She snarls. That's too far. Miro Noir hisses, standing up, and Vernon rises and intercepts. Calm down. She's just a bully looking to get me thrown out by provoking us or scare me off, as if I haven't faced death or pain or humiliation," Vernon says smoothly as his wife literally smolders in rage. He leans over and kisses her on the lips. She's startled at first, but quickly melts into it and calms down. "A very interesting tactic, Miss Zion Hute. The tournament commission and I will be watching both you and him with great interest, so I can assure you there will be no cheating from either of you. Now, I would recommend that you leave and keep a respectful distance before we start to consider psychological warfare to be out-of-ring violence," Brinchar says evenly and with more than a little authority in his voice. Zion Hute seems to rise up in anger before tightly nodding and turning on her heel to march away. "So she was in a rivalry with that green one and is now furious I got between them. I've stumbled into an anime," Vernon remarks. "An anime? What's an anime?" Brinchar asks. "Short for Japanese animation. They're fond of stories with two rivals constantly battling with each other and pressing one another to be better and better until, usually, the underdog overtakes the one who seemed to be the sure winner at the end because he had more to prove and pushed harder and harder without growing overly prideful. The problem is that I've stumbled into the middle of this and likely pissed off both sides due to winning against one of the two. Though which of the two, the hard worker or natural genius, is likely up for debate." Vernon muses as his mind goes to a great deal of the shows he'd availed himself while just trying to pass the time in zero gravity. Regardless, there's going to be a lot of bitterness from her coming up. She's liable to work herself into a greater and greater fury if she passes all her rounds. Or maybe her rage will overtake her and she will make a mistake. Either way, we've got some solid drama in the tournament this year," Brinchar notes. "Speaking of, let's head some off. Miro Noir, my love, Brinchar has asked me to switch the tactics I had in mind for the last round with the next one. I do hope that won't be much of an issue." "Oh, not at all, although I want you to fight safely. As Hute has proven, there are some less than honorable members willing to do anything to win. Some things might not technically be against the rules, but they certainly go against the idea of a cleanly fought and won tournament." Miro Noir warns him and he nods. "I'll be fine, my love, don't you worry. As I said before, should I find myself in real danger, I let everything out. I don't think any of them will be ready for that," he remarks, and she just snuggles into him. "You know we're here for backstage drama and to inform people, not clips for a romance." Brinchar teases and is waved off by Vernon, and he simply chuckles in response. "I look forward to your next fight. Show them what it means to face Asterisk, a son of the woods." He finishes before giving the group he came in with, likely his wives, a look that they understand, and the entire crowd quickly finds its way out to leave Vernon with Miro Noir to wait for the next round. Soon enough, he's walking out into the arena, his feet bare and his pants rolled up to just below the knees. There's a rush in the crowd and he holds up his arms as he heads to his position. The fourth round begins and something odd is going on. Our sorcerer contestant has modified his outfit. "Can we hear why?" Goyidis asks, and Vernon nods. He takes a moment to glace up at the contestant lists. It shows several of them breathing fire or using brute force to best their enemies. Neither is going to avail them, and he's going to get an image updated from merely holding his sword as it's sheathed in electricity. Brinchar, a fellow sorcerer, asked me to use more outright sorcerer-style abilities. I was planning on saving this for the final round, but he shrugs. "Why not?" Oh dear. Be ready, girls. This is going to be right out of a storybook," Goyidis announces, and Vernon shrugs. "I haven't actually read one of those yet. Do you have any recommendations?" he asks as he looks up to the box. "Oh no, not right now. The match begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin," she announces, and Vernon's stance widens even as the other contestants rush at him to stop him before he can do anything. The arena floor cracks and shatters as roots tear themselves from the fire-hardened stone to grasp at the contestants. Enormous trees begin to grow upwards and upwards as the roots grab and restrain the Apuk contestants, and then move over their shells, slowly spreading and cracking the comparatively frail metal. Their strength avails them not, and the fire merely feeds the wood. Vernon has simply vanished in the confusion. "Sorry, ladies, but it's already over," he remarks softly. He then reveals himself as the leaves on the tallest tree parts, and he steps further out onto one of its strong boughs, his feet gripping the bark as he easily balances upon it. Then there's a cracking sound followed by a series of others. He looks down and smiles when he sees that the Apuk below have vanished. "Displacement teleports," he notes as a fireball is blocked by the hungering branches to catch and drink the flames. "Very clever." He continues as if he had not been interrupted. He sits down on the branch and lets his legs dangle as he looks down on the furious but very cautious Amazons below him. Asterisk. "Do you have more, or may I continue?" he asks in cinder tongue, and two of them leap at him. The branches of the tree grow longer and slap them out of the air and onto the arena floor. Asterisk. "Sorry, but this is sorcery. You'll need a princess to pull me from this tree. Is there one here?" "You're not a sorcerer. You're some tret punk in the middle of a—" One of them begins, and a root whips up from the floor to wrap around her and squeeze until the shell shatters. Asterisk. "Anyone else?" he asks. "Are there any bright ideas, bouts of courage, or unexpected tactics? You have 30 seconds before I break every remaining shell but my own." He calls down as he stands up on the swaying branch in perfect balance. Then he begins counting down under his breath. Entire rivers of blue fire are spat at him, but the very leaves of the trees redirect the flame to drink deeply of the heat, an axiom causing the tree to grow larger and stronger. Those that try to jump are swatted back, and the few who think to climb the trunk find the bark slamming around their fingers and turning every bit of movement into a war. As green as the leaves is, the flame needed to scorch these branches. He remarks with closed eyes as he seems to ignore the world around him. Then his eyes snap open, glowing pure white, and he glares down at them. The entire forest begins to twist and slam down to grab the other fighters and pin them to the ground. He then lands between them all as light as a feather and regards them. "Last chance to pull something unexpected," he remarks. 5, 4. They all vanish in short teleports. They surround him but are swept away by the trees and roots twisting again before they can strike at him. 3, 2. He dodges a chunk of the arena floor being hurled at him at a speed that reduces it to a blur. 1. Time's up. He finishes the count before turning as the tree that is still thrashing about and grappling 4 separate Apuk in his defense takes on a burst of speed to rival his own. The largest tree begins to glow, its mere presence now disrupting the axiom being used by the Apuk women even as it grabs them and holds them helpless. It twists around and vines grow from the branches to wrap around them and then squeeze their shells into shards. It then lets them all go. Asterisk. "Thank you, my friend. I hope the feast of flame and fear was filling," he says, walking up to the tree and putting his hand on the bark. There is a deep rustling moan and he nods in return. Asterisk. "Of course, don't you worry. I'm trying to test myself. Although I do appreciate the offer, thank you," he says, and the entire tree begins glowing brighter and brighter. Then the light fades away and takes the tree with it, leaving behind an unblemished arena floor and 5 defeated Apuk contestants. He simply nods to all of them and silently walks away. Asterisk. "I did not win this. I brought the woods to win this for me. Traditional sorcery or not, this was not a win. Not at all. Good goddess, that was incredible. The sheer effortless dominance of a sorcerer, the utter ease of it all. We all saw that clip from the back where he and Bryn Char spoke. He's the real deal, and unless a girl's a princess in the making, then there's just not a chance, Goyidis announces with glee, as the image of Vernon holding the tritite war sword with electricity running across it is replaced with one where he's simply holding his palm to the trunk of the glowing tree.